Hi guys, welcome back to That Green Mini. My name is Gareth and in today's episode we'll be cutting the inner arches out of the Mini. Before we do that though, we need to get rid of the clutch cylinder and all the auxiliaries around the engine bay. So we're just going to clear the engine bay, get the steering rack out and away we go. So in the last episode we moved the engine from the engine bay, and as you can see it looks pretty barren, but there's still far too much stuff in there for us to get this conversion in the way. So I'll need to remove this wing here completely, probably to around here, get all that cut out there. I need to get rid of the clutch cylinder, the fuse box is going to have to move, the secondary fuse box is going to have to move, this I might be able to keep in place, and this needs to go back to William because that's part of his CAD top engine mount. And this inner arch is going to have to go as well. I will be measuring everything out and cutting everything accordingly, and I'll show you guys exactly how to do that. But before we do that, we need to make sure we get the steering rack out and the steering wheel column from the inside of the car. So these bolts are located underneath all the carpet and all the trimmings, and they're also behind the heater matrix unit of the Mini. So you need to get all of that out of the way in order to get to these bolts. They're easy enough to undo. It was a 1/2" socket, and just undo them. It has got two U-bolts that hold the steering rack into place on the bulkhead of the Mini, and once they come off, everything should be handy-dory. As you're going along with all the dismantling of the inside of the Mini, please make sure that you label up every single bit of wire so you can put it back to where it came from. It would help you out in the long run, so do it now rather than doing it later with a massive headache. So once I've removed all 4 nuts of the steering rack that hold the U-bolts in place, I then move on to the steering column and I start to undo the top mounting bolt, hoping that will make a bit easier life for myself, but it turns out it really didn't. It still made it very difficult to get off. So once I've headed out of the Mini, I'm trying to think, why is the steering rack not coming off? Everything was unbolted. There shouldn't be any reason for it to be stuck in place. So I'm like, what do I do now? So I reach over, I get a pry bar, and I try to wriggle it free. But as you will see, it still didn't budge. So yeah, this pry bar did work a little bit. It moved it up and down, but yeah, not much work happened from it. But it turned out that I just about forgot to undo the little shackle link on the bottom of the steering column. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just going to undo that completely, get rid of it, and hopefully I can make it a bit more easy for myself. But did it? No, not really. No, it didn't. Definitely not. It was still extremely difficult to get the steering rack off. It was just solid. So solid. And it was at this point where I was thinking, oh, what is going on here? It should be off by now, surely. So I've got a different pry bar and I'm still trying to get this coupling to release itself. I'm going in and out and wriggling it everywhere. It's just not having it whatsoever. It's just giving me a right big headache, this was. I'm starting to hit it, but no, didn't come off. So guys, so far I have taken out the steering rack. It's bolted on via 2 holes there and 2 holes there between the pedals, and I then remove the steering column, which is a simple bolt goes through these little holes here. It's a 13mm bolt and pops off, steering rack comes out. I did have a lot of trouble trying to get the spline shaft to come out of the steering column, so I ended up having to hit it a few times with a hammer and a chisel in a little slot that you get on the bottom of the steering column, and that didn't work. So I was like, what do I do now? So I ended up heating it up a little bit, and then lo and behold, the whole thing fell off. So I'm happy with that. The next job, guys, is to get this pedal box off. So all it is 2 bolts, one there and one there, but I've already removed it, so that's okay. And then there's a little mechanism here, and it seems to be just a little twist thing holding it in place. I'm sure it's meant to be bolted down, but I'm not too fussed about that. It just makes life easier for me. So that's going to come off in a second. There is also 4 nuts on top of the pedal box on the inside of the engine bay that hold it in place. It's those nuts that hold the clutch cylinder and the servo for the brakes in situ. So you've got to get rid of those before you can move anything out of the way. I also had a lot of trouble removing the little split pin. It came out easy enough once I got a pair of pliers in place, but it's still the most frustrating job you can do in a Classic Mini is to remove that pin. I was also hoping that I could save this pedal box for when I put the VTEC into the car, but I don't want to have a servo on the car anymore because it just looks a bit bulky. It's a big, ugly looking thing. So I was going to put a yellow tag master cylinder in place, but it turns out this pedal box is not compatible with that, so I'm going to have to get a new pedal box, which is quite frustrating, but it's got to be done if I want it to be exactly how I want it to be. So once I've finished juggling the camera about, I start to undo the 4 nuts that I was talking about before to get rid of the pedal box from inside of the car. So these 4 bolts are also holding the clutch master cylinder in place too. So I've got to get rid of the clutch master cylinder, and I've also got to get rid of this top mounting bracket for the brake servo housing. Right now I'm trying to figure out why this isn't moving. It should be free because all the nuts are undone. And then I realised there's a nut on the back of the top where my hand is right now that is holding it in place. So this is what I've got to undo. It was making my life a little bit harder, but it's done now, nice and easy. So as you can see, I've got the clutch off, and now I'm trying to figure out how to get this gator off, and it turns out all you've got to do is just uncouple it from the bottom and leave the gator on the fork, and everything else is easy enough. It comes off nice and easy. So guys, I've finally gotten rid of that pedal box. It's quite an effort to get rid of because I had to get all the bolts off, get all this gubbins that was here off completely, and then try to weasel it out of a little area. It had a very tight fit in there, but it eventually worked, so I'm happy with that. So that's the next result out. It's all this gasket sealant on here. It's just like treacle. Horrible. Next thing to do, guys, is to remove the slave cylinder for the brakes and maybe try to remove some of this wiring. Ready to start cutting. So guys, after a good few hours of messing about and trying to get this wiring loom out, I've finally got my head around it. I've started labeling all the different wires and where they're going off to. So when I do take the wiring loom out, it's literally just going to be a case of putting it back into exactly where it came out from. The only thing I'm going to leave all this here, just because it all goes inside the car, and you've seen the nest behind there. It's not fun to do. So I'm going to keep it as it is, but I'm going to get it back through this hole. So in order to do so, I've got to undo those bolts there, which hold the top of the bracket for the coilover. I'll need to undo it on both sides because there will be brand new brackets going on and better coilovers in place. So yeah. So guys, that's me done for today, and I've done loads, just ridiculous amount. On the inside of the car, I've managed to get myself the steering rack off. I've managed to take out the steering column, the heater matrix, all the bracketry from inside the car, and I've also managed to remove all the wiring from this side of the car. So tomorrow, which will be in a second for you guys, I'll be marking up all of this from way down here, all the way up, round, and then straight down to cut it off. And then I'll be doing the same on this side. There's going to be a lot of marking up, a lot of double, triple checking, and then maybe I'll get all this gunk cleaned off from underneath the bracketry that was here for the master for the clutch and the brackets for the what's it called, servo. It's a bit horrible. It's like treacle. Look at that. Ugh, disgusting. So all that's getting cleaned up. Little grommet holes here. I need to figure out a way of neatening all my wiring loom. Because as you can see, it's just in a big nest. I need to make a bracket for this to make that sit somewhere nice. Maybe sit it there like that and then force all that inside, but I'm not sure yet. I'll figure it out. Make it look nice. And down here on the side of the car is the front of the wiring loom. Let's go on the inside of the car, guys. And there is no steering wheel. It's all clean down there. All my wiring loom is labelled up on the inside as well. I think I've done a lot of work. All I need to do now is I need to remove the accelerator, what's it called, the pedal. Yeah, I need to remove the accelerator pedal, and that's that job done. So guys, it's the next day, and what I've got planned for today is basically to mark everything up inside the Mini and then get it cut. But before I do that, I need to make sure the engine bay is as clean as possible, just for my own benefit, and it'll help you guys out as well if you ever try to use this as a guide. So let's get cracking. So guys, before you start cleaning up the engine, make sure you're wearing your personal protective equipment such as a set of rubber gloves and safety glasses to make sure you guys don't get any bad chemicals on your hands. I know a lot of people don't, but dermatitis isn't very fun and it causes very brittle skin. It's quite a painful thing to go through, so make sure you protect yourselves, guys. So guys, at the moment I've just got rid of the headlight dim dip relay, so and I'm moving all the wires up the way, ready to start cutting. I decided not to mark everything up because if I did that I'd be overthinking, and you just got to get it done. As brutal as it is, you just got to chop away at it. before you get cutting, make sure you guys have got some kind of ear protection in place, such as earplugs or ear defenders, and you're wearing either a safety glasses or a full face visor. Both would be better. As you can see, I've got my 4.5-inch grinder here with a 1mm slitting disc, and I'm just going to use that to cut my arches out. When grinding, guys, always make sure to use the guard, because if that catches and falls onto my laps, it's going to do a lot of damage to me, and it can be lethal. So guards is always a must when cutting with a grinder. Also, guys, if you're not comfortable with the grinder or confident enough to get the job done, don't start it, because it's just going to bring danger to yourself. You have to be very confident, and you have to be very careful with a slitting disc like this, because like I said before, it can cause lethal harm. Right here, I realised I left a piece of wire in for the headlights. It would have been really good if I cut through that, because it just made my loom even shorter, and I don't want to be adding extra bits of wire everywhere, just make the whole thing look messy. So I've tucked that out the way, and I'm going to start cutting the curve out. And you can do that with the slitting disc relatively easy. A lot of people think you can only cut in a straight line with the grinder, but as you'll see now, you can definitely go in a curve. Remember, guys, to take your time. It's not a race. You get it done when you get it done. And this is where my GoPro died. Luckily, I had another camera up top recording me doing the whole process. So I'm glad you guys got to see what I was doing before my GoPro died. So this is the time lapse of me cutting out all the engine bay. Well, that's the inner arches cut out. That's one there gone. The little tab here, that's all gone as well, nice and smooth as well. Won't be able to cut myself on there. And then we've got the passenger side well is out completely. I've also trimmed this bit out here with the grinder and a little bit out here as well. So all that's nice and smooth, so you can't cut yourselves. I've left this bit here for my water bottle. Hopefully it won't be in the way of anything, but if it is, I'll have to cut it off. I'm praying it won't be, but we shall see. Yeah. Thank you for watching, guys. It's been a long 20 minutes to get to this stage. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't done so already, please press the subscribe button, the little bell icon. It would help me out a lot. I've left these photos here at the end, so you guys can reference to where I've cut, and hopefully it'll help you guys out. So yeah, subscribe, like, and comment, guys. See you next week.